Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
This is The Ray Taylor Show.
Bros! New movie streaming now on Peacock. This is a movie that I saw promotion for leading up to its theatrical release. I saw and read the articles about how horribly it did in theaters, which I'm not really surprised about because most movies aren't really doing great in theaters in general, and for a romantic comedy to not do well, not surprising. To be a romantic comedy about two gay men, not surprising as well. I mean, it's a niche of a niche in a time where not everybody's going to movie theaters in general. Me being one of them, despite the fact that I review movies, I love movies, I love going to movie theaters to watch movies, but I have not been since before the pandemic. Just not a situation I feel like, and also monetarily not something I can really afford to splurge on to go to see a movie. So the fact that a movie doesn't do well in theaters, I don't think is really an indication of much. Regardless of that, I was excited to watch it when I saw it was available on Peacock, a service that has some good stuff on it and fairly inexpensive. For those that maybe don't have the service, I signed up for. They had a promotion for like $20 for the year to watch the ad-based version, which I will say, for anybody concerned about ads, especially when it comes to watching movies, the way Peacock has it set up is they play all the ads before the movie starts. So when you watch the movie, it is not interrupted by ads. However, when you watch TV shows, the ad breaks that you would see in a TV show are then populated with ads. But as far as the movies are concerned, which I love, which just means I will never sign up for their premium service. Not that I would have anyway, but it's nice to get the ads out of the way. You get your popcorn ready, you get your drinks ready, whatever it is to prepare for whatever movie you're about to watch. And then once it starts, you don't have to worry about any ad breaks, any interruptions, which I love that, which is not the case for most ad-supported streaming services. So just that as, just a heads up in case maybe you thinking about watching this movie, thinking about getting the Peacock service. Not that I'm sponsored by them, but would love their sponsorship money if they did decide to sponsor this show. However, bros, also saw the outrage that Billy Eichner had, kind of blaming straight people for not going to see this movie in theaters, which, he's closely tied to it, not only being the writer of this movie, one of the writers of this movie, but also the star of this movie. I could see how disappointing it may be to not have the success that you had intended. And for myself, I've never really been the biggest Billy Eichner fan in general. The show he had where he's like Billy on the Street or whatever, or even the character that he played in Parks and Recreation, every time I've seen him, he's just like loud and annoying. And it's not something that I want to necessarily, I'm not excited to participate in and see somebody that's loud and annoying. Thankfully, this movie, completely different. The only kind of reservation I had when watching this movie is that I hope he's not loud and annoying. Now, of course, there's scenes where he's passionate. His character is very passionate about LGBTQ history. This movie opens with him doing his podcast that is very successful. Also, something that I love about this movie is the first time I have seen a podcast portrayed in a movie or TV show that was not a true crime podcast. It seems that every time any movie or TV show has a character that does a podcast, it is always true crime, as if that is the only type of podcast that exists. But in this movie, it is different. He does a LGBTQ history podcast That, of course, he, strays and tangents and talks about himself as well. But it's the topic that his character is most passionate about. And there are moments in this movie where he is very passionate about that topic and in discussing that topic. And it makes sense for his character to be loud and maybe annoying. But in general, if you've seen Billy Eichner and things and have felt he seems to always be loud and annoying, he is not in this movie, which I loved. And I have to say, I really did enjoy this movie. I am not the biggest rom-com fan, and I am very unfamiliar with a lot of cinema that portrays anybody in the LGBTQ community. Of course, I've seen a bunch of movies and things that do fall into that category, but as far as the subgenre of like a gay or anything other than a heterosexual rom-com, not the biggest. I mean, even in my normal movie watching, I rarely watch rom-coms as it is. So, very ignorant to the genre as a whole, let alone this specific subgenre of that genre. But I did love this movie, right? It does that thing when I do watch a romantic comedy, especially if it's any good. Obviously it will have to have comedy in it, which there are plenty of comedy in this movie. But also, the romantic side has to awaken my cold, dead heart and make me feel warm and fuzzy inside, which this movie does as well, which I appreciated. I enjoyed the fact that it was a fun watch. It's a fun story to watch. It's, you're seeing not only our main character played by Billy Eichner, who's passionate about history, passionate about the specifically LGBTQ history, but also is in this movie being one of the people in charge of the first LGBTQ museums and how much that means to him. And also you get to see how, as in many rom-coms, opposites attract. These two people who aren't really who have commitment issues deciding to be in a relationship together, and two people coming at this relationship from completely different types of hurdles to things that keep them from being in a committed relationship for very different reasons. Let's take a little break from the show to promote gift certificates. If you want to purchase artwork for somebody, you have an art lover in your life and you think they would like my art, but you don't know what painting to get them. I have over 2,000 original pieces of art for sale in my store, along with shirts and prints and other things. So I can understand that being a bit daunting if you're trying to buy something for somebody else. Give them the gift certificate, and then they can go to my website, inspireddisorder.com, and they can buy whatever paintings they want. They can buy whatever prints they want. They can buy t-shirts. They can buy hats. They can buy all the different merch, gift certificates, which are available currently at inspireddisorder.com. And now let's get back to the show. Billy Eichner's character is just never trusted people, has always kind of pushed people away, and this other guy is almost in denial that he is gay. I mean, clearly he's gay, but in many ways is presenting to the world as a bro, right? He is the bro guy who is in public kind of puts on a straight facade in some ways. Not necessarily that he is not out publicly, but just doesn't present himself, has never felt comfortable embracing that aspect of himself. So a very interesting dynamic in that way as well. And obviously the thing that would bring the title Bros to the forefront, where this is very much a movie that's like a bromance, which you would find in in heterosexual rom-coms or comedies as well, the bromance. But this is a bromance in many ways that goes all the way, right? Which I enjoy, even like in how their foreplay is very bromancy, like roughhousing, which is kind of hilarious how it's like this guy is so in some ways protective of not being open about things, that is how he gets into his these romantic relationships, how it goes from, it's like it's just a fun dynamic. And because of my ignorance to the whole thing, it's a lot of fun to see what it's like, the dating scene, the kind of the sex life scene, and to see how in some ways on its face it seems to be void of games, right? But as you watch this movie, I realize that it's not that there's no games involved when it comes to relationships and dating in that community. On its face, it looks very upfront and to the point, especially the depictions of dating apps, how, having casual relationships is just so effortlessly open, and what they're into is so, like, there's no beating around the bush as it tends to be in a straight version of that type of a thing. But it has that view where it feels like it's very open and honest, but then you see how the games are just different types of games, how the second guessing and how how you're going to form your texts, your replies, and that back and forth, how it's just a different kind of game, right? It's the same. They're still playing the same types of games. It's just done in a different way, which I appreciated how this movie, for me, for somebody ignorant as myself, as a cis straight white man, how this movie illuminates the complete and utter infinite possibilities of existing as a human in this world. And I enjoy being introduced to all of the different flavors that exist in our realities. And that is one of the things that I enjoyed about this movie, and does it in a fun way. I appreciated their relationship, and how, one of them, they're helping each other out in many ways. Billy Eichner's character is helping his love interest, which, let me get their names here. So Bobby is Billy Eichner's character, and Aaron is Luke Macfarlane, is the bro. And Aaron is kind of, Bobby is helping Aaron follow his dreams. He's passionate about becoming a chocolatier, working in a job he hates. And in some ways, Bobby is encouraging him to do that, to not only be comfortable with who he is as a person, but also be comfortable in letting go and following your dreams, which, as for Bobby's character, he has been, in many ways, the complete opposite. He has followed his dreams despite everybody in his life telling him that he won't succeed, right? Defying all the odds, as it were. And there's a great scene when they're out on vacation or whatever. Bobby's trying to secure some donations from a rich guy, right? And Aaron helps him out because he knows how to talk to rich people and knows how to get money out of rich people. And they have this conversation on the shore of like a lake or a beach or whatever it is. And Bobby's opening up to what he's had to deal with, where people were like, he wanted to sing, and like he was told that, you're not going to be a good singer, you'll never be popular. And then when he's a writer, it's like he's like had people put hurdles up in front of him and try to convince him not to follow his dreams. And despite all of those things, he has become this self-made and become successful in not listening to those people. And, so he's in some ways jaded from that constant having people try and tear him down and keep him from realizing his dreams. And in some ways that is helping him convince Aaron to follow his dreams, which I appreciate. That I love movies that have that flavor, that have that story, that theme of people realizing and following their dreams, something that I think more people could benefit from, especially in a society, in a world that we're living in now, where things are changing pretty drastically. Let's take a little break from the show to promote the benefits of Inspired Disorder Plus. So you go inspireddisorder.com/plus. Sign up, $5 a month. You get to binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free. You get to watch all of the live painting videos I do. You get a special members-only discount and deals for all of the artwork and merch that I sell. You also get the complete podcast back catalog of every podcast I've ever produced, hundreds of episodes, countless different podcasts. You also get access to my personal blog. A new blog comes out every week. In addition to that, you get my creative writing that I'm releasing. You also get access to Asking Me Anything. 14 years of experience podcasting. I've been creating art my entire life. I've been using Photoshop since middle school, and you can contact me to ask me questions about that or anything else. So those are the benefits for signing up for Inspired Disorder Plus. And now let's get back to the show. There's also a hilarious foursome scene during New Year's Eve, and like the fourth guy is just some tag along guy, and he's like, what's his name? It's a foursome scene with what's his name, like Steve or something like that. Yeah, Steve. Hilarious scene. Like, there's just so many funny scenes in this movie, and it has all the heart, has all the comedy, it does all of the things. I really enjoyed this movie, and even at the end of this movie, I had a huge smile on my face. I was torn between happy tears and laughing, that perfect balance of a rom-com where your heart is clearly reminding you that it's no longer a solid, dark husk of a being, that it actually is still pumping blood, and also the movie never straying away from being funny, and I loved it. I really did. I enjoyed it. But again, despite it being a great movie, a funny movie, a great romantic story, a fun way to kind of tie in bros, like, it's not a movie that, like, if he was expecting to grab the straight audience because this character is a bro, because this character in many ways identifies as a bro dude, which is a very annoying version of a straight dude, the bro version of a straight man. Like, it's tough. It's tough. Just because you have a character that kind of is relatable in that way doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be roping in that audience, right? But I think it's a great movie. I think it's a movie that, will find its audience and will be a movie that people return to. And as far as a rom-com being successful in the theatrical sense these days, I just don't think I think that's just going to be a rare thing in general, regardless of the sexual preferences or how people identify in the movie. I just think as a genre, there's very few, like, unless you're some kind of pre-existing IP, like a superhero movie or a big budget action movie, unless it's like some big tentpole movie, I just don't see a lot of movies getting success in that way. I just don't think. I think the industry is changing in a lot of ways. I think that it's clearly things are becoming more accessible through streaming, which, as somebody who loves movies, I prefer. Right? I'm sad that studios and producers and the industry, the business of film, I'm sad that that's changing and that a lot of people are being cut out of the profits, as every industry is going through right now, where owners and business owners and the corporate elite are the ones who are making all the profit, where the actual people doing the hard work are being cut out of that profit. I'm sad about that. But from a consumer standpoint, I love that movies are so easily accessible now, so fast after release. And I hope that in time, through unions or whatever, that people are able to come to an agreement and for people to be able to profit in this new way, in this new world that we're living in, where movies are easily accessible through streaming. And, this is a fun movie, and I really enjoyed it. And if you're into rom-coms, I would highly recommend checking it out. Even if you're not into rom-coms, if you just like a comedy, if you like a romance movie, there's a lot of things that this movie touches on that would be intriguing, I think, for any audience. And I think anybody who watches it, unless you're just completely homophobic or narrow-minded or just misogynistic, and you just, you're completely against any kind of emotion other than whatever. If you're like the hardest audience I think this movie could connect with is the bro audience. The audience of straight bros who are so protective of their straight masculinity to even watch a romantic comedy in general goes against their entire belief system, let alone a romantic comedy that involves anything that's not straight sex. So the ambitions of this movie somehow being able to connect with and bring in the bro audience is kind of insane. But I enjoyed this movie regardless, and it definitely was a movie that I'm sure a lot of people heard of and may not have heard of if it didn't flop in that way. And Billy Eichner's kind of response to it flopping and kind of blaming the straight audience probably got a little bit more attention, but it is what it is. I enjoyed the movie. I would highly recommend it, and definitely check it out. I think it's a lot of fun and a great movie, and watch it. It's on Peacock, which is funny. Check it out. Bros.
New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!
Today is the day where you wake up and you realize that everything that you've been dreaming about, everything that you've been wanting, every goal and wish and hope that you've ever had can become real. Dreams can come true. What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.